Hello and welcome to Wellness Universe Lounge. My name is Lolita Gorin and I'm a stress management expert. And thank you for joining me today for Life Without Limits Freedom and Success by Healing Childhood Trauma. And the session is already third of this lovely journey that may be painful sometimes. And we will be talking about validation. And as a wellness universe expert, my intention is for you to recognize your childhood trauma and, of course, do everything in order to heal it. And as the wellness universe brings experiences like this to you because we believe in happy, healthy, healed humans lead to peace globally. This session is donation based, so we are grateful for your pay what you can donation. There's going to be a link, of course, after the class. You can do this now or after we are done, or you also can do that for the future classes as well. And please be sure to leave a rating and a review for this class. And um, I am very excited to have this conversation today about validation. Uh, and it can be a little bit painful. And I will be guiding you through this one meditation that I think it's very, very powerful. And so have some pen and paper for some exercises. I also will be asking you to answer some questions. And it's okay, of course, if you would like to share it. And the meditation, it can be a little bit, you can have a tier of one or two. So you're welcome to have a Kleenex nearby. So why do we need validation, first of all? And I know a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't matter what others think. The most important part is what do you think. Well, we need validation because we are herd animals. We need other people in order to be happy, in order to emotionally regulate. And of course, our survival really depends on other people. So that's where the people pleasing comes. And we need the validation from others so we know, are we doing good? Are we good enough? Are we good enough? And this is a little bit tied in the previous session that we were talking about not feeling good enough. But one thing is when you're not feeling good enough, another one is seeking validation. And so when we already babies, we really cannot take care of ourselves, and we need the parents, and we need to please them to make sure they're happy with us, so they feed us, and we're happy. um, the sad part is that when you grow up in a dysfunctional family and you have an addict in a family, or a narcissist, or any parent that actually does not give you enough emotional support, you will not be feeling good enough. And so you constantly will be seeking validation from the parents, from other people, from your siblings, from any relationship in your life that you will have, because we need to know that we're doing the right thing. We need to know, are we accepted? Because if we will not get that validation, we immediately feel unsafe because we think, oh, I'm not doing good enough. They're going to expel me of the group and I'm going to die. That's really the brain really thinks, goes back into survival mode. And that's how we try to protect ourselves, right? And so many people can say, well, it doesn't matter what are the things because we can have different opinions. It's amazing in the world. But how many times do we seek validation even from the wrong people? It doesn't matter what kind of validation, just validation, but especially from parents. And it's it reminds me of a joke. A mother gives two dresses to her daughter, or that's even the joke also about the mother gives her son two ties, and one is green and one is red. And then the next time, the son sees his mother, he puts the red one, and the mother looks at him and says, "What's wrong with the green one?" The first time I heard this joke, I was really laughing because that reminded me of my household, really. Because it feels to me like no matter how hard I try, it still will be not good enough. No matter something, whatever will be happening, will be still not good enough. So I want to ask you, um, okay, so here's the question, and you're welcome to answer in the comments below. Do you think you need validation? And how much? Do you seek that from other people? I know I did, and it's just, and I still do, especially when has to do with anything creative that I do. Yes, yeah. Brenda answered yes. It is, I think somebody can say, well, if you feel so secure and mature, you don't need other people's opinion and validation. But like, for example, right now, I really care what Brand is going to answer, because I want you to get the your time worth. I want you to learn something. I want you to leave this meeting and be happy about it. So validation, asking validation from others is can come from a place of insecurity of thinking, oh, I really need to validate me so I feel better. But also has to do with that other person on the receiving end is, I want to make sure I'm doing a good job that you will benefit it. So I think validation, it is a good thing when it's in moderation, and especially when we all belong to some sort of groups. But it can be very obsessive for someone who came from a dysfunctional family, because they continuously asking validation from friends, from coworkers, from relationship partners. And I was very surprised when I was reading this great article that was really targeted towards the professionals who deal a lot of clients with the childhood traumas, that said um, that how can you know, do you have the need for validation? It may look like you maybe not necessarily go somewhere and constantly ask, like, is it okay what you think, kind of like exercise, like example, I mean, like I remember when I was a teenager or even young, I was still in my 20s. I would go with my friend to buy shoes, and I would just try on different shoes, and I will ask her, like, so what do you think? I'm asking for validation. And if she says, oh my gosh, those look gorgeous on you, then I'll buy it. But if she says, no, I don't really like them, then I will not buy it. But then I will ask her, like, okay, what shoes do you like? And she's like, yeah, I like those. And then I would think, like, oh, I really don't really like that, but I think I'm gonna still get the shoes that she wants, even I don't like it, because I want to please her, right? I want to seek validation that she approves of me, and I feel safe because my friend, her feelings are not heard. And yes, and like Brenda, like you said, depends on how secure you are, and it's when we start validating ourselves every single step, that can be super exhausting, because you just lose your true self. But also, someone who grew up in a dysfunctional family don't even have that true core of self that's really grounded and unmovable, because they know who they are, because through all of this survival mode, when they were growing up, they were not even allowed to be themselves. They were not allowed to feel. They were not allowed to ask for help. And even the needs of emotional closeness or feeling secure in the situation were not met. So naturally, when you're in a constant stress and a survival mode, you're going to just become the other person who is your authority, because the parents are authority. And it's like, well, if that's an alcoholic, an addict, or emotional available parent, we're going to mimic them. We're going to be like them. We're going to be like they want us to be. And we want to make sure we're doing the good job, because if they agree with us, then we're safe. And that, of course, when you grow up, become an adult, that could be very, very, like you said, Brenda, it's very, very insecure, because it looks like you don't even know who you are. And I think it is important also, when someone comes across like that, an adult, and you interact with someone and they look like they're constantly asking for validation, it's always good to remind yourself, like, maybe they don't have this secure feeling of themselves. They're so immature because they grew up in an environment where they were not allowed to even express themselves, or they were laughed out of who they are. And yes, so Brenda says, well, these are belonging in the family and society. And so one of the things that I was coming back now to that, what I read, is said, do you like to help other people? And a lot of us, we love helping other people, right? Like, like they say, well, if you don't have a life purpose, or you feel low today, just go and help somebody, volunteer or something like that. And we just so light up when somebody's asking us something, like, hey, can you help me with this, or do you know where so and so, whatever. And we happily answer those questions because we like helping. So the point of that was very interesting to hear, that someone who grew up in the childhood trauma and have a feeling that they constantly need to validate themselves and get validation from others, is they very, very happy to help others and even be in the situation where they can be helpful, because they get that validation of like, oh, I'm good, I am needed. And especially when we grow up in the environment where we don't feel loved for who we are, then we kind of start thinking, okay, well, you don't like me how I am, so at least I'll be useful. And this is what translates when someone is an adult, they become just workaholics, because it's like, well, I'm needed, they cannot replace me, I am needed, so I will not be abandoned. And that's the fear of abandonment where it kicks in, because you grew up in the environment where you felt insecure and then unsafe. It's like you knew you will not be accepted the way you are. So I found that fascinating. Of it was, well, if you like to help other people, this is great, but also could be because it is help you to feel needed. It makes you feel good. So that was, so I wonder, what's your take on that? What do you think? Because usually when I help people, I do not think like, oh, I want to be useful, right? Like it makes me feel good because I'm helping others, but maybe that's all one the same thing. So, yes, there you go. Yeah, Brandon says, or becoming a nurse or as a career. Yes, in doctors or volunteering a lot, or being in any working in the religious organizations and helping, or like being a teacher. And really, we just, I think everyone likes helping other people. Well, maybe I'm just thinking from my point of view. But I thought I found that point very interesting. Like, oh, you think you don't need validation? Do you like helping people? And then I read further down. It says that those who are like very immature and they need more validation, then they even can go farther down that road, and they can create actually a problem in the family and then fix it for their family members, or create a problem in the, or push their friend into something and then come up with a solution and help them. Because that's also like, look at me, I could save this, I can save the world, I can make the situation so much better. And oh, you see, you needing me, validating me that I'm worthy of something. And so, when some, we can say, well, that's kind of sad. And but when you grow up in the dysfunctional family and you don't get enough validation and from the parents, but also worse if your siblings and even the grandparents or anyone who lived in the house or classmates, they laughing at who you are, or like they comparing you to somebody. I think that's the worst thing, when siblings being compared, like parents comparing, oh, you good and do, and you are so much better because you're playing a piano and you don't play nothing, so who are you? Or just totally ruining any talent that the child has, because they're like, well, whatever you're doing is not good enough, and that could be totally devastating, because we look at our parents as an authority. That is the authority that we ultimately always need to get approval from. And obviously I was not alive when Johnny Carson had the show, but probably maybe I was already alive when he passed away. But I was, it was kind of sad in a way when I was watching the special about him, and he said that he did not have a good relationship with his mother because she was never praising his talent, she was never watching the show, she would never gave him a good word, and he even didn't go to his mother's funeral because they did not have a good relationship. Of course, I don't know how much is that's true, because not everything that you hear can be true, but this is something I think that a lot of us face, is that validation from the authority means so much more than having that validation from a coworker or a friend. And more than that, I think we all, especially here at Wellness Universe, there are so many of us that we want to change the world. We want to make an impact. And even someone, let's say, a parent doesn't have to be changing the world. They maybe want to make their life better for their children. And for us to fulfill that vision, that goal, we're going to seek validation. And we will know where we are. Are we doing a good job? Are we not doing a good job? But it is extremely important to know who are you also asking for that? And you know, the problem with seeking validation also, we need to know where to stop also, because if we will continuously want to change the world, and we're continuously trying to make things better for ourselves and our family, and we're constantly seeking that validation from other people, it is becoming, it can get spin out of control, and it's just totally burnout. It's like it's stressful. It is stressful to constantly seek validation and to be in that fear of I'm not doing good enough. And that can be done in the healing process that has to do with the whole childhood trauma experience, that has more to do not just with validation but with fear of abandonment and not feeling enough, and with all of those things, because I think they all just really one thing, just from different point of view, they really kind of come like a conglomerate in this. And when you start healing one part, the other part starts healing as well. There's another thing about validation is like, well, it depends, what opinion are you going to listen to? Opinions constantly change. One for one person can be, you can ask validation like, hey, what do you think about this? And they say, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then you can ask from somebody else, and they say, oh no, this is bad. Or you even can you can see how many things in our lives change, from one year to another one. Like, look at that, women, 100 years ago were not wearing pants. Now look at this, the opinion changed so much. So it is very important to understand who are we asking that opinion from, and what kind of opinion, and where is whether we want to go with that. But asking for that opinion and validation is, it's always good to have your own answer, and just really go with what you believe in. Again, depends on the situation, because if you're asking an expert, then probably, and you're not an expert, probably their opinion, their validation is really worth more than somebody else's who is not an expert. And so when we do not get that validation from the parents or the authorities or teachers, then we start seeking validation from the relationships and that we are in. And especially if somebody is grow up in a dysfunctional family like I am, I'm just drawn to the toxic people, and I'm just drawn to that, seeking the validation. And so when they just start right from the beginning, on the first day, they tell me how amazing they are, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just soaked this up, because I'm thinking, wow, look at this, I finally get what I need to hear, finally I get this validation and I'm amazing. And then I put them on a pedestal, and then that's what's called love bombing, and that's really can ruin the whole life. You can get so much of energy into that, and then it just really can go very badly, and then we get entangled in those toxic relationships that we're continuously seeking this validation. And if the person is really toxic, then they will be having this they give validation, then they don't, they give validation, then they don't, and we just really get addicted. It's like, this is the experiment of mouse, how they will keep on pushing the level, and then they were getting fed, and then they keep on pushing, but there's no food coming. So then they started starting doing more often, pushing the pedal, is where's my food. And that's how it goes also in the relationship. So it is extremely too important to evaluate your relationships and say, okay, is this a toxic relationship? Am I constantly seeking validation? Am I constantly seeking affirmations? And what am I really getting, and what price? Oh, and then I like Barbara's, yes, well, sorry, Barbara, so Brenda, we choose the functional partners so we can fix them. And there you go. And this is really, like, you just so right. It's like, it's kind of going to what I was saying, that we want to be useful, we want to be helpful, we want to make change in the world, right? And we're like, yes, we can. And also, I think those people who come from this functional family, we are empaths. We have a very big heart, because such a thing as to become an empath, you need to be in an environment where you're able to read other people's emotions, where you're able to read the situation in a room. And I'm sure when that happened to you, when you come in, you come into the room, and maybe people don't even talk anymore, but you still feel this energy, like, oh my gosh, there was a fight going on, and I don't know about it, but sure doesn't feel right. So we grow up being an empath, because that's security. We don't want to get in the room somewhere where there was a fight or about to get a fight. We're reading all the signs, how other people are. And I think it's a superpower to be an empath, because you know what's going on with people, but also you have such a big heart that you want to help them because you know they're suffering, because you came from this dysfunctional family. You know how bad it is when you're feeling bad and somebody mistreating you. We have those big hearts that we want to help others. So then when we get in the relationships like that, we think we can help them, we can heal them, and at the same time we can heal ourselves. But that is a very, very big work. That's probably should be just another class or just only on that. And so I want to ask you now a question. So I want you to remember how much validation you got from your parents. Was it enough for you? You're welcome to answer in the comments below. Okay, so Brenda answers it was up and down. Yes, and this is where what the addiction for validation is born. Because when you keep on getting it and then suddenly you don't get it, you keep questioning yourself, what's wrong? What did I do? And the worst thing, and I remember this from my childhood as well, if my dad was not drunk or halfway drunk, let's say, or those times the way he was not drinking, he will see me, and he will say something. Oh well, daddy, look at this no, look, this is nice. And I hear the painting I draw or something, and he'll be like, oh yeah, looks good. And then I get a validation. But then when he will be all drunk, obviously I would not get any validation. Or when he will be, the next day, when he's really not in the mood to talk to anyone because he has a headache and hangover, then I could do whatever I want and be as good as a kid as I want, but still not getting validation. It is extremely confusing to a kid, because it's like, I thought whatever I was doing was good enough, and now it's not good enough, and I'm not getting validation. What am I supposed to do? How else do I need to perform here that you could see me, how you can approve me, that you can support me, can love me for who I am? So it is it is very, very dysfunctional, and it makes someone who is in that kind of environment really confused. And so the sad part about that, when I grew up in that environment where I was not getting enough validation, and or on and off like that, as well as Brenda, we grow up in the adult life and we think that all the relationships are the same. So like, I know personally, when I will get the toxic relationship and I'll get this on and off or nothing at all, I think like, that's how it's supposed to be. Like, this is normal. That's what and I know my friends will say, you don't deserve this. You should get, like, I had 13 years marriage that ended, and they like, look, he's totally mistreating you, like you. And to me, that didn't look like mistreating, because in my mind, pain was equal love. And I'm like, that's normal, because this is what I grew up with. That's my normal. And it took years to figure out, like, no, that was not normal. I have to actually look how other people behave with each other, what their relationships look like, how much validation, acceptance, and support they get. So then I could see, oh, now I'm comparing this. So this is what it is. This is where we need to stand. So now when I meet new people, I'm always have a whole checklist. I'm thinking, now I'm going to look at this. And that's where the healing starts, when you actually start seeing how are your relationship with other people, why are you seeking validation, and what to do about that. So I also it is also very important. And I read in a lot of books about the way they deal with the children of addicts. It says that it's very important when the child growing up in a dysfunctional environment where they don't feel safe, but they have a person where they go and have the safe haven. Let's say there's a grandparent's house or a friend's house or teacher or someone that they can go and talk to, or just go and kind of hang out and let all the emotions out, or just calm down or feel safe. That itself, having that kind of person in the child's life, cut the trauma in half, because at least they had some place where they could relax and calm down and recuperate. So now going into uh, yes, Brandon said that they have an anchor. So now my question is, did you have a person in your life that you got validation from? The other outside your family union? Was it as a teacher or a grandparent, I mean, outside of your household. So, for example, when I'm thinking about myself, since I didn't get enough of validation inside my house, I remember having teachers who were telling me that I was a good writer, I was a good student, I was used to play on piano, that I'm doing an amazing job with playing on piano, and all of those. Wow, wonderful. Brenda says yes, grandparents home. Lucky you. Good for you. That is amazing. Like, because my grandparents, half of my family, were not even talking to us, and then other grandparents, they were also dysfunctional. So it's so amazing that you have grandparents who were there for you. That's wonderful. So when somebody says, "Oh, just close your eyes and you remember when your grandmother baked you cookies," you probably like, "I remember that." This is awesome. This is very good that you had that. Um, okay, so how do we deal now with the how we can deal with the seeking validation from other people, and always have to go inside with a lot of things. Of course, starts with acknowledgement first, that, oh, I'm seeking validation from other people. So next time when you're in a situation where you ask somebody else's opinion, really need to stop and ask yourself, will I allow those people to dictate my actions? Or I'm just asking the opinion to check myself. Am I doing a good job? Am I making the right decision? Are those next steps that I'm about to take sound good? Or maybe you asking other people opinion and validation for whatever you're doing, maybe getting a different point of view, and that will help you to make a better choice. So when you start asking yourself those questions of, when you're in the situation, you're like, okay, I'm acknowledging I'm about to ask this question and I'm asking other people's opinion. You also need to understand that it's your opinion is number one priority to you. like like at any moment, like, okay, this is my opinion, I'm seeking this, I'm going to ask other people about that too, but as of right now, I'm making that decision, I'm validating myself, I believe that this decision that I'm about to make is the right for me. And then you go and research, do your research, asking other people, and then you give yourself permission to change that opinion. But first you have to talk to yourself and give yourself self-validation for whatever you have. Of course, we will not be going all around asking every single step. That's very unhealthy. But there are some people who cannot even do small tasks during the day. But with anything that we do, we need to talk to ourselves like a best friend, and give ourselves validation to whatever we're doing. Um, and that's like really nothing new. But that's, again, this is that inner monologue that we know, that inner critic is that, are we listening to that inner critic? Are we not? When we hear something that really goes against what we just thought, we should question it. Question yourself. Why am I thinking that way? Why can I validate this? And then give your brain concrete evidence of, let's say you're a great writer, and you're like, no, but my mom never liked my books. Like, for example, I wrote quite a few books that are bestsellers now, seeking validation from my parents to approve of that, and I never got it, so I continuously asking for other people. But now when I come of a need of thinking, oh, well, I'm not being validated by my parents, now I tell myself, look, I have 4 bestsellers. I mean, when is enough, right? So work with your brain and with yourself and say, okay, this is what I'm getting in my mind now, but here it is. Imagine that your friend will be asking the question and you're giving them the answer. I'm sure there's nothing new, I'm telling you. But the key is to actually doing that and not just allowing it run wild. And then another good exercise I like, when, and I a little bit touched on that before, to make sure that that person that you're asking opinion, it is an expert in things. And yes, Brenda says, don't give your power away at the sake of their opinion. Yes, because it really matters. Who are you asking? I remember when I was in university, we had students who will come and be good students all semester, like that was me. And there will be some students who come very rarely, and they will take my notes, and then, or somebody else's notes, and then they will show up to the exam. And so when you ask them, how was the teacher? What were the questions? They will say, oh my gosh, that was super hard. I mean, oh my gosh, that was one of the difficult exams. And we had oral exams, so the teacher can ask you anything about that question that you're supposed to talk about. And but then I will go and I'm like, that's easy. Like that was no problem at all. So if somebody will ask that first person and say, okay, what do you think about that? They will say, oh my gosh, that was very hard. But if they ask me, like, I will say, no, that was very easy. So it's really important to seek validation from someone who's an expert in something. And you ask yourself, do they qualify to validate you? So if, let's say, in a workplace environment, um, we always want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can. Now, probably asking opinion of your supervisor or somebody who has a lot of year of experience, that's very valid to seek their validation, right? Like, oh, valid seeking validation. I like the word. But if you're somebody who doesn't have such an experience, probably it's not even wise to listen to their opinion because they maybe don't even know what they're saying. But they know it's like, oh, well, you say nothing new. I mean, of course, no brainer. But how many times you think about it in a workplace environment or in a family environment? We ask the opinion or validation for our actions and for who we are from people not necessarily who experts in something that they do, but those that we feel threatened by. Like in the group, let's say there is remember when you were growing up, I'm sure there is always in the group there's like a leader, and we always want to make sure that we're approved by those people, because when we approve by them, then we feel more safe and secure in the group. So it's very important who you really ask. um, and asking validation from whatever you're doing that has to do with your relationships. I also noticed that I used to ask opinion about my actions to get the validation from friends, not those who actually have experience, let's say, in dating, but those were my close friends that actually never dated more than two guys, because they just got married with a like middle school sweethearts, and they don't even understand what it is, but because they're my very close friends, I want them to prove me. And so when you get into more personal relationships, it can be very tricky to really differentiate between here's the person that you need to get validation from, and here's the person that you should not listen what they have to say, because whatever your experience is more than theirs. So we talked a lot about all of this validation thing. So I want to ask you now to of course, we all understand that getting the validation from the parent, um, especially the one that we didn't get the validation, could be an addict or not an addict, or just somebody who's not emotionally available to us. It is worth 1,000 times more than from multiple friends. Everybody can be standing and applauding you, but if that special person who we believe is the authority, like a parent, not giving that validation, we could be just spinning our wheels and totally burning out, just continuously looking for that forever our lives. And the sad part is that we may never get it. And what helped me to come to peace of not getting validation from the people that they were the authority in my life, it is realizing that they cannot give that to me. They're just not capable. It is not because they thinking, oh, she's asking for validation and they know what she's doing, so I'm going to be mean and I'm not going to give it that. And it might be a lot of people do that, but when they thought that I have to find some compassion in that and think that they also came from a dysfunctional household, they don't even know how to seek validation. They never I mean, how to give validation, because nobody gave them validation as well. And when I start looking at them as a 3 years old child whom I am expecting them to be an adult, it just becomes a little unfair, because they still those children that were not really loved and supported the way they should have been as well. So I want to now to do this little exercise. So you're welcome to, if you're sitting somewhere safe, and you can close your eyes. I hope you're not driving or doing all kinds of operating machineries and equipments that you should not be closing eyes. Uh, so just you close your eyes, and then imagine that the parent or a person that you were seeking validation, that's like the most important person in your life that you wanted to get that validation from, is standing in front of you. And now this is a time for you to tell them what you think about that. So then, just if you're in an environment where you can talk loudly, you can talk it out. If you feel more comfortable with your eyes open, you also can do the same. If you feel like you want to stand up and walk around and imagine that they're sitting in front of you, you're welcome to do the same thing. So the key in this exercise is to bring up those emotions that giving you that power of honoring yourself, honoring your feelings of that disappointment that you're getting when they give you no validation. And you might also get angry. I know I got, and it's okay to get angry, and it's okay to get it out. And you, even if you feel like you want to shout at them, you can do the same thing. And you just can even ask questions like, well, why you never were proud of me? Is it what kind of parent are you? Why you will never get validation? Do you seriously I'm doing it so bad? I mean, look, compare myself to other people. Do you seriously, who do you, what kind of parent are you if you're not giving this validation to your child? Why am I not good enough? So just tell them, I'll give you a few minutes, and just imagine that you're talking and you're just telling all those feelings out. You're just telling them how you really feel about that. And you can get angry, and you just can shout, and also, but if you feel like, no, this is way too much for me, I'm really that kind of person who would like to express this using your voice, you also can take a piece of paper and write them a letter, and they write how disappointed you are that they were not giving that validation, and get those emotions out. That's the whole, most important part of this exercise, is to get those emotions out. Because when you address that grief of not getting validation, get your anger that you didn't get it, or that disappointment in them, you addressing that wound and you healing that, and you allowing yourself to feel those emotions. Because a lot of times when we grew up in a dysfunctional family, we were not allowed to be ourselves. We were not allowed to feel our emotions, because we immediately were told, no, why are you crying? Stop crying. If there's nothing to cry about, I'll give you a reason why you need to cry about. You got the point. So I'm giving you a few minutes, and you're welcome to do that now. And if you feel like you really feel like it's not the right moment because of some other people maybe around, and you feel better specifically making a time and just scheduling to do like on a weekend or whatever, when you will be alone or when you have more time to contemplate, you also can do that too. But for now, I'll just give you probably like 2 minutes so you can get the head start and maybe have some questions about that and see what's coming up for you. All right. So Brenda had a very good point. It says using hypnosis to connect with communicating with validation and resolving the need for validation. I am enough exercise. This is so powerful. Absolutely. Yep. And then it's good with or without validation because we don't need validation anymore because we are good enough. And that's what we talked in the previous session. So for those who are listening in right now on a replay or live, if you did not listen to the second session that we did a month ago, it was about not feeling good enough and self-worth. Did this recording ready, and we also talked about other exercises that you can do to help you with that. Okay, well, so let's just move on. So now I have a question. How much validation is enough for you to feel successful? Do you need to hear other 10 people telling you you're good enough? Or you just need one person to tell you that you did a good job on your book, on your project? Or it is important for you what kind of person? If it is a work environment, is a supervisor good enough, or you need to have another 15 people from your team to tell you that you're good enough and you did a good job? Or you're in a family and you feel like, well, maybe your spouse is not that important, but you really would like your kids to validate you. And how much validation do you need? And who's the person that you're asking the most validation from? I like Brenda's answer. Yeah, my own validation. That is always good to have. That is great that you are so ahead of a game, Brenda, because there's so many people cannot uh, bear not enough validation. Good for you. So here's another question. When someone tells you how good you are, do you believe it? I used to struggle with that one because I would think that no matter what they say, it's probably not good enough. It's kind of like the same with how well you accept the compliments. It's like, well, oh, I like your dress. Oh, what, this old thing? Yeah, that's like anecdotal right now. Wow, all this thing. Oh, it's so old. But it's really when somebody is actually giving you validation for a good work that you did, for who you are, for your personality, for whatever trait you have. It's like, do you take that in and you count that this is the truth? Or like, nah, no matter who's saying that, no matter how many times, I'm still not gonna believe it because I have to be perfect, which of course comes from not being uh, appreciative of yourself and having a low self-worth. Well, that's great. I'm very happy, Brenda, that now you're getting better as you get older. Yes, I am same here. And, everything starts small steps, but as long as it starts, we need to validate ourselves. And, I really like, um, we need to, well, they say, do not compare yourself to other people, but compare yourself to yourself. And that's, I think, this is the best validation, because I also love how we can prove to our brain. So for example, like you can think, well, I didn't do, let's say in the business, I didn't do enough sales this month, and somebody can say, no, I think you're doing great. And then you're thinking, I don't know, they just don't know what they're talking about, they're just being nice to me because they just want to please me. That opinion, that doesn't really matter. And but then you can compare, especially if you have something that's very comparable. You can say, okay, well, yeah, let's say you in sales. Okay, so my team member over there, we're doing the same work, and they were doing more than I. But then, is that's what will show your self-worth? Or your self-worth is because you did a good job and that made you feel good? So having that self-validation is very, very important. Or like, yeah, you did the best you could. That's like the best validation. Is like, because honestly, when you think about it, we're always doing the best that we can in a given moment, right? It's not like we said, you know what, I could do better, but I am going to hurt myself right now. I'm purposely will sabotage myself. We never do that, because all the things and all the actions come from place of fear, of insecurities, and then we self-sabotage, then we do not spend enough time on something. And so there are all of different those things, but if you validate yourself, that's the best thing to do. And tell your brain that, that little critic I was telling about before, if it says this and that negatively, always bring up the positive and compare yourself to yourself. Like, oh, you're always late. Like, you're such a late person. Well, not really. There were only maybe twice that I was late, and other than that, I'm doing pretty good. So playing with yourself in your mind and contradicting yourself really can come to the realization that, well, I'm not really doing that bad as probably I was thinking I'm doing. So if there are some areas, let's say, that we seek validation, like let's say in the workplace environment, or working on your own business, or things that looks like we constantly can be improving, it's very important to get validation and reward yourself what you already accomplished when you compare yourself to yourself, but also have a plan and a goal or achieve better, and have steps where you can get constantly that validation of that you're achieving, and actually it's a good thing. So, but of course, you need to know which direction you are going. So that's where you're asking an expert of like, hey, what do you think I should do? Do you think I'm doing enough? That is very useful, because somebody who really knows their business, they really knows about the matter of subject, they can give you the advice that you can follow, but also you cannot follow at all. You can say, no, I disagree with you. But by that disagreeing and standing your ground, you're validating yourself. And again, that's the most important part. And it doesn't matter where you grew up, as long as you got to the core of you really believing in your own strong of who you are, and you're standing your own ground. That's how you're not abandoning yourself. You're honoring yourself, honoring your own goals, your plans of who you are, your emotions. So another thing, how to feel better about validation is, which it's kind of like we ending up in the same place where at the beginning I started off of saying that if you want to volunteer and you want to be helpful to other people and you give advice and you're always there for the people, you maybe just need so much of being validated. But then if someone does not do that and they feel like they need validation, like from other sources, and that they're still not getting it, like, oh, I don't have a helpful spouse or a partner who tells me that I'm good I am, and I feel totally worthless and I still need that validation, then you can go to volunteer. Then you do simple things for other people, and really doesn't have to be something good to tell or do to other people because we need validation. I think that's just sharing the love and caring about other people. So, like again, I said, depends. What is the purpose of that you're doing it? Is it that you want the validation from other people? That's why you're so nice, or you're actually nice because you really want to help others, because that makes your heart sing, because that's your purpose. It makes you feel good. Like, I think a lot of us, we're not validated enough, and it does not take so much time or effort actually to validate someone. And as simple giving compliments to even random people on the street, like, or you are standing in line to get your coffee, and there's a woman in front of you wearing kind of cute earrings. You will make her day. You say, I love your earrings, those are really cool. And she'll be thinking, oh my gosh, somebody saw me. Hey, look at me, I'm seen. And that could make her smile for the rest of the day. She could go probably to her work and have a good mood, and maybe she will help somebody else. And I think when we feel around helpful, and that makes us feel happy, um, that's how we change the world, right? And it doesn't take that much. And when we do different things for other people, and or help them, and giving directions, or not necessarily has to do anything with money at all, or helping them move a chair, or telling them good job on the project, especially in a work environment. Yes, exactly, like Randa says, pay it forward. it just makes us feel good. And sometimes I think, well, I don't think that majority of people think, oh, well, I need validation, so I'm going to give the compliment to that person, so then they're going to give a compliment to me. That's like a lot of think about that. But majority of us, I think, we genuinely want to help other people. Of course, if we think from a narcissist point of view, that's a totally different conversation. But now I'm just really concentrating on people who grew up in a dysfunctional family and they were not getting enough validation, where they were feeling like they were not seen enough and they're not validated for who they are. And those are with big hearts and empaths that we really don't know um, how to validate ourselves, but also we understand others and we just like to share the love that we have. Do you have any ideas how someone can work on them, how to get more validation or feel more needed or wanted? You're welcome to share it. I like your idea, Brenda. Journaling. Yes, journaling is so good for so many things. To getting your emotions out, to standing, not abandoning yourself, meaning honoring yourself. And we can, the gratitude letters are very good because when we're grateful, that elevates the energy and the vibration. And we just so grateful for what we have and for the people in our lives. And we just generate more of that. Well, we are close to 1 hour here, and I just wanted to thank you so much for being here. And I have now, do you have any questions about what we just talked about that or any insights that you want to share? Thank you, Brenda, for participating. That was amazing. And if you are those who are listening also as a replay, if you are not the part of the Facebook group that I created specifically for this all year long journey healing through the childhood trauma, you're welcome to become a member. And there I answer the questions. Anyone who asks a question about anything that we talk about childhood trauma, or we're not talking about childhood trauma, anything that's related to that, and we share experiences or winnings, and so it's when help each other. And I think it's very important to have the group and the community where you can talk and open up to the people that actually been through the same or similar experiences, and they can understand you better. Um, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brenda, for being here with me live. And for those who are listening in and seeing in the replay, thank you so much for taking your time. And please leave me a review if you like this session or some others. And you're welcome to donate as much as you can. And I hope I see you next month. Thank you. Bye-bye.